All right, would you look at that? Holding up its own weight for the first time in quite a while. Long way to go, but things are really coming along. All right, well, before we go any further, let me just say I really am close to monetizing this channel. I need to have 4,000 hours of watch time in the last 12 months, and I have that. And if I had 1,000 subscribers right now, I could actually be making money. So please, if you're watching this and not subscribed, please, please, please subscribe. Okay, well, I keep having this fear that I'm going to do something stupid and try and take the truck for a drive without having oil in it or something dumb like that. So before I go any further, I think I'm going to just top up everything that I can with fluids. The front axle, I'll have to put the axles in and stuff before I can do that one, but everything else, it's time to go ahead and top her up. Okay, well, first up is motor oil. I have put a whole container of that ZDDP zinc additive stuff on there, and that was from Lucas as well. I actually like to use Lucas stuff because they seem to sponsor all sorts of cool motorsports events, dirt biking, drag boats, all kinds of things, so I'd probably rather give the money to somebody like that. On to transfer case. Alright, well, I got my transfer case filled up. Next step is to finalize the plumbing on the transmission. So basically this, what I'm going to show you, is something that used to make me so unbelievably nervous. So this click-in style fitting, this is a remnant of the stock lines, which of course has been modified to mount up to this BD kit. I actually sourced some new fittings that go into the actual transmission. They were quite tough to find. I'm in a large city here. One, huge chain hydraulic shop just flat out told me they couldn't get them, and another one had to order them in. Anyways, I got that stuff dealt with, so I'll still, of course, have to put thread sealant and get that all plugged in there together. I'm going to go ahead and hook this thing up now, fill the tranny full of fluid, and continue on. I was always really nervous about that click-in style on there. One of those things I've been thinking about forever, and it's nice to have it done. Before I go any further, I'm going to put some coolant in here. I've decided to be Mr. Fancy Pants and go with distilled water. And then this coolant says it's good for diesel engines and all that. So I'm going to toss this in here now. And while we're on the topic of cooling systems, I was chatting with my dad a little bit, who's a heavy-duty mechanic and just an all-around knowledgeable guy. And we were talking about my rad cap. And as you can see, this thing is shot. It's got cracks and crap on it. The rubber's old. This could be the original thing that's, 25 years old now. And he actually told me that if it doesn't have the correct amount of pressure in there, it can really lower your boiling point and make your truck overheat quicker, I believe is the moral of the story. So this is a pretty cheap one to change. Those of you who have been following along know that I was planning on doing some major cooling system upgrades, but I'm going to throw this on first and just see if that has any difference. I have had some very, very minor overheating issues in really specific sort of circumstances, so I'm going to give this a try and see if that changes anything. Okay, well, right now I am dealing with the new return line back to the tank from the injection pump, and then I've gone and bought this set of stuff. So basically this black piece here is bulkhead fitting, and big thanks to whoever it was that commented about that a while ago. I had no idea what to do. Somebody mentioned in the comments to just use a bulkhead fitting. I forget who that was, but I just want to say thank you, because this is definitely the route I'm going. At first I wasn't that pumped on this particular location, but to be honest with you, I kind of like with it being up high. If there's ever any issue with it leaking, it's going to be dramatically less of an issue because it doesn't have constant fuel pushing against it, kind of thing. As you can see, I mean, there's not much tank above that, and honestly, I mean, it's tightened down good and solid, and the hole is just barely big enough. Like I said, I had to kind of thread that piece in there a little bit, so I'm pretty sure this should be secure. Okay, so as I had mentioned before, this bulkhead fitting is in and tightened up. I actually have a little bit of surplus line. I haven't really worked out the exact routing yet, so I'm just going to leave that for now. So got that done. The tank is in, obviously. The rear drive shaft is in. I'm not sure if I showed you that. These things, I got these caps to go over there. I would imagine if these were going to see any actual pressure, I might throw some hose clamps or something, but I already have those screws that are pretty firmly screwed in there, and then they have thread sealant on them, and then I got this. So in terms of just keeping water out of there, I think that should probably be pretty good. So I have started to kind of get this mess together. I've got the wiring down to the transmission and transfer case in place. I had some wires that I had replaced for the transmission speed sensor, so I ran some split loom over top of those. I've got the wiring going over to the alternator. Can't really see that, but that's all in and good to go. Throttle linkage is starting to get together down there. I have ordered a new throttle cable, the one that goes from the transmission up to the P-pump, so that will be in, you know, who knows when. I'm probably gonna have to start the truck on the old one, but before I drive it, hopefully I will have that in. I will be getting a new throttle position sensor, which sucks. Those are a couple $100. I've ordered the bell crank bushings from Power Driven Diesel, so thank you very much, 9812 valve, for the recommendation on those. All right, well, theoretically tomorrow my new control arms should be in. Getting this front axle in is going to be a huge milestone. I mean, and aside from that, so many systems on this truck interact with that front axle. I mean, you've got brakes and front drive shaft and suspension and steering and on and on and on. So it'll be really nice to get that thing in there, get this sitting on its weight, and you know, really get serious about taking this thing for a drive. Control arms came in today. Those are nice and ready to go, and then I bought new proper control arm bolts right there. And of course, once I get this thing back up and running, I'm gonna have to take it to a alignment shop pretty much right away. But anyways, gonna do that now. Okay, well, I'm at the point now where the only thing holding me back from starting the truck is electrical. If I was really to just go straight for trying to start the engine as #1 priority, I would have to put in the batteries, put some of the wiring back together, and I could basically get there. But I think what I want to do first is actually have this thing standing on its own weight. You know, I'm so close to the day of having to move, and I really can't afford any stupid mistakes, or I'm going to really try and avoid them as much as I can. And if anything happens where it pops into gear or something like that and it pushes itself off those front axle stands, this would be a complete and utter catastrophe at this point. So I've been waiting on the control arms. I'm really looking forward to seeing this thing sitting on its own weight. So I think what I'm going to do is just try and get that axle underneath it. Okay, well, I just got the steering gear put on. As you can see, this is the PSC XD steering gear. I got this and a pump and lines, all from XD, or sorry, from PSC back probably a year or two ago. It's been quite good. It seems to handle the load fine. It's supposed to be sort of an upgraded model to do away with all the death wobble and stuff with the other ones. I will definitely let you guys know how this thing holds up over the years, but anyways, that's back installed. And next up, I will be starting to reinstall the Solid Steel Industries track bar relocate kit, I think it's called, or adjustable track bar kit, whatever. I've had this on before. I was really impressed with how well it fit up and just bolted right on like nothing. Really satisfied with the quality of this kit from Solid Steel Industries. All right, and there's the mount all put in place. Everything's nice and solid, snugged up. Now I'm gonna go control arms. All right, well, here are my nice new control arms, and these are the new control arm bolts. This is like a proper set that's designed for this truck. I got that off eBay. One huge problem I had was when I pulled out the old ones, they were extremely rusted to the bolts. It was a huge, horrible mess. I think out of the 8 bolts, I want to say probably like 3 or 4 of them had to basically just be cut out with a Sawzall. It was just a complete nightmare. So I've said that I want to put a long arm kit on this truck, but I've also said that I was going to put a Hamilton head in there, and I've also said I was going to do all these cooling system upgrades and all this stuff that never happened, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. So, you know, would I like to upgrade to a long arm kit? Yeah, sure. But, you know, if I get these shocks on there and find that the new tuning gives it a great ride, then maybe these control arms are going to stay on there for decades. I mean, who knows? So I'm going to try and give my future self as much help as I can, and I am going to just absolutely smother these bolts in anti-seize or never seize, whatever you want to call it. It was such a nightmare getting the old ones apart, and it's very possible that some of my ride quality complaints were because that the bolts were not rotating freely inside those steel bushings. You know, the rear didn't have that problem, and it was still super stiff. And like AccuTune said, you know, when they tuned the shocks, that they made a lot of dramatic changes. But, you know, in Carly's defense, it's possible that that might have had a negative effect on the ride quality, maybe. So if the bolt and this metal bushing are completely rusted together, the only flex or rotation is just coming from this actual bushing here. So it's possible that that played a factor. I mean, you know, I doubt that that was the only thing, but regardless, I really want these to stay as nice as they can for as long as they can. So like I say, I am going to be getting real messy with anti-seize on these bolts and just doing everything I can to keep this stuff from seizing up. All right, well, here's an example of what one of the bolts looks like when it's all coated and never seize. Have I mentioned that I'm hoping to avoid some rust? Anyways, this is what I'm looking for, and then even when I put the nut on, I'll probably put a big glob of it on there. I really want to protect this from rust. My God, what a nightmare that was. Okay, well, I got the control arms in. This is the setup. I kind of lifted each end up on a block. These are 6x6s. Ratchet strapped it up and had to shimmy and shuffle a bunch. I've got screwdrivers in both sides just to kind of keep it somewhat lined up, and now I can start going through and putting bolts in. Front axle is in. It's drooping there nicely. Next up, I will be putting springs on and shocks, and then I can have it sitting on axle stands, and then I'll start doing knuckles and axles and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, coming along. All right, and there we go. The Carly multi-rate coils are installed on both sides. This one says D for driver, the other one P for passenger. Time to drop these 3-inch King remote reservoir shocks in there. Big thanks to AccuTune who retuned them for me. I cannot wait to take these for a rip and give it a try. These shocks were super expensive, way more money than I actually paid for the original truck in the first place, and I really hope that now is the time I can start feeling that money. These things, the shock towers, are an absolute work of art. I mean, these things are just beautiful, super strong, super sturdy, and the kind of product you would expect to come from a place like Carly. So time to put these on the shocks and drop her on in. All right, shocks in there, shock towers tightened down, remote reservoirs mounted. Everything's all done, top and bottom. I think next up I will probably put the adjustable track bar, which goes right through there and down to that end. All right, folks, well, now that I'm starting to put this front axle and front end together, I'm remembering some of the absolutely shocking levels of spending that took place on this truck. Front end issues on these second gen 12 valves are pretty well documented, and if you have bigger tires on and stuff like that, you know, that's known to make it a lot worse. So as you saw earlier, I put on the PSC XD steering gear and pump and lines and stuff. That was quite expensive. Obviously the suspension was completely ridiculous, but there's some other stuff here that really added up quick. Okay, so inside there, I've got an ARB air locker. That was super expensive. I had a tough decision with what to do with the actual internal components of the front axle, because originally it's a 30 spline axle, and as you can see, you know, it was a completely open diff. I mean, I wasn't going to weld it. And if I was going to buy a new center section, I thought, why don't I get something that's 35 spline? So as you can see, the 35 spline is dramatically bigger. And part of that was to do the CAD delete, so the central axle disconnect. That has been removed. And one of the things that kind of goes along with that is going to the Dynatrac free spin hubs. This was a really expensive kit. I think it was around $4 Canadian or so. I've got EBC rotors on there, and I had EBC pads, but they wore out super quick, and I just threw a set of whatever's in there. I have also, because this truck's a dually, you have to get these new hub extensions or whatever they're called. These are from Aerocraft, I think. That was like another $700 for 2 of those. And then I've also got the Dynatrac HD ball joints in here, which I don't know why I spilled so much paint all over that. I should have taped those up, but anyways, I'll clean those up. So I mean, right here, you know, and I've also got the Synergy HD steering kit, and I mean, we're probably talking about, like, you know, 10 grand or so in front end upgrades, which is just absolutely insane. Considering I bought this truck for less than $4,000, I mean, some of these parts really add up quick, but I am trying to build something that will hopefully hold up for a long time, you know. So anyways, starting to get into some pretty spendy stuff right now. All right, so inside that differential, I've got a new 411 ring and pinion from Yukon. That's front and rear. I put those in myself. That was a gigantic job. By far the most technical thing I have ever done on a vehicle. And I thought I was being smart by putting 411s in there. The truck originally had 355s, and in order to keep that same ratio with 37-inch tires, I would have had to go up to 430s. And if I had to do it all over again, 100% I would have gone to 430s. For me, it's all about off-idle power, so having that deeper gear ratio would definitely be a big asset in that department. But anyways, I'm curious to see how the stock cam is going to behave in there, so it might not end up being, you know, all that bad, but we'll see. All right, and speaking of expensive front-end components, the Solid Steel Industries adjustable track bar is installed. Well, sure nice seeing all those lovely parts in there. I'm getting really close to being able to put the wheels on. I got the knuckles on there. Got the Dynatrac ball joints all torqued down and greased up and ready to go. So I'm just going to continue on, and pretty soon I should be able to put some tires on and let this thing support its own weight. All right, 35 spline Yukon axles are in there. I got the spindles from the Dynatrac free spin hub kit. Everything's looking pretty good. These brake dust shields are absolutely disgusting. I called the parts store that I usually deal with, and they just said they don't even list them in their catalog, and obviously they are available, but this truck chews through brakes pretty good, and considering a little time I have right now, I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall them, and I'll reassess the next time I do a front brake job. All right, would you look at that, holding up its own weight for the first time in quite a while. Long way to go, but things are really coming along. All right, folks, well, there we have it. Probably could have got this truck started if I really wanted to, but decided to just kind of get everything done first and then try and go down that road. It's nice to have it standing on its own weight. The next episode, I will be focusing on brake lines, front brakes, steering linkage, few sort of odds and ends like that, and then jumping into wiring and interior, and either next episode or the one after, I'm hoping to start this thing up and take it for a drive. Very exciting to see this thing coming along. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.